Welcome to From the Left. My name is Stephen Leon, and I'm running for the House of Representatives here in Virginia's 8th District. I'd like to give a shout out to the GCD Network for hosting this show, and I hope everyone enjoyed last week's show from the independent-elect Tennessee. Tonight's show, we're going to have four topics for the most part of peace in the Middle East, the Don Bot debate that we had recently, and big data tax. So that's a very interesting one. Get some money out of that, hopefully. And then Matt Gaetz. Really like to talk about Matt Gaetz. So jumping right in with peace in the Middle East. As everyone knows, the Hamas leader, Sinwar, was killed. So everyone's kind of questioning how far is this going to keep going? I know there's a lot of just also on the left, it's on both sides. It's how are we going to keep funding this? Why are we keep funding this? And we're supposed to be impartial with a lot of these things. That's original Washingtonian Creed and all that. And for everything that Israel and the people, Jews, have gone through since their foundation, it's not everyone's always trying to take stuff from them. And it's so yeah, that's a big deal that this Hamas leader was killed. And what is that going to do? Is that going to squander the movement over there, or is that going to make it flourish? And what do we do? And I've been long advocating that the people in Palestine require a unifying leader. And again, it goes back to our impartialities. Like, how do we do that? Like, how much influence can we have? And not meddling in foreign affairs. Of course, World War II has changed all that. A lot of these boundaries that have been drawn up are subsequent to that. So, we have to start there. We have to start there and really finding that this is what kind of resources would a person have in Gaza if they were a unifying, peaceable leader? Because, if you go back and you do the homework, all this is about socioeconomics and boundaries, right? All war usually is. So, yeah. And, when it comes to funding, if you're doing your research, you'll see that we've already imposed certain sanctions on Israel, certain things that we would consider immoral. I mean, war as itself is pretty immoral. So do your homework on that. Do your homework when it comes to what kind of sanctions we have imposed on Israel, and really pay attention to that. It's like if you just go after one little point when there's several, and you just put it on social media or whatever it is, and just it's a very sensitive thing. And so I see a lot of that chatter on social media. If anyone on the left or the right is when it comes to funding Israel, continuing to do it, and this is really a president's job. A president should be up there in front of the camera talking about how we should move forward with these things. And as it is, you just see a lot of campaigning. There's a lot of money. How many texts do you get a day asking for a text? Some days it's 10. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, like the plutocracy of it. And even then, the texts are usually probably they're asking for smaller donations and things like that. But I mean, it's Act Blue or When Red. You see these messages in there. They're not even endorsed by the candidate themselves, and just give it to them, and then they have to use that money to keep circulating around. And it's like, wow, do you think any of this could possibly have anything to do with ideas, right? Better ideas. So hopefully we can see peace in the Middle East, soon enough. We can't advocate for peace if we're promoting war first. Yoda, wars don't make one great. To be prepared for peace, we have to be prepared for war. So, it's looking at those things. It makes me think, like, why, if you understand that, then why are we still calling Alexander the Great the Great? You know what I mean? If so, yeah, there's again, please do your homework on what's going on with that. And if that would be the best thing. I mean, if it's the long-term goal, yeah, there's a lot of hostages exchanges and things like that. But when it comes to reestablishing Gaza as a one-state or two-state solution, that's their choice. So it's really about finding that unifying leader that can do that. let's move on to this Don bot debate. And I was only slightly perturbed that I wasn't invited to this thing. So what did I do? I jumped right into the live chat. I'm not a lesser candidate because I didn't make the ballot. If you've done your research on that, if you've seen my website, you've seen the circumstances of what I went through to get on the ballot. There's good faith merits on there. That write-in spot is there for a purpose. And I can understand that maybe like there are a few other candidates that didn't make the ballot or they didn't try or whatever it was. Like, would you need to invite them? So it's just kind of one of those things. It's kind of I took the initiative and I just, every single question, I just within, whether it was whatever the moderator had said in there, like within just a couple of seconds, I knew exactly what to say. And I typed it in real quick. And for some reason, that was hosted by the True Representation Movement. I wonder if they had deleted some of my comments. I dropped a Digital Democracy Project link in there. I dropped my website in there. Maybe they took it upon themselves to take that out. Or maybe it's just, these smartphones, not to get too nerdy on it, but they use a reduced instruction set conductor or computer. That's what a RISC processor is. So it's not a full x86 like I'm running on my home MacBook right here. That there's more instructions it can handle through the processor and all this stuff. So that's why they put all this overhead and everything like that. And that's why your phone doesn't. But if I had clicked send, you pressed 2 or 3 times for the same action. It just doesn't do it in your book. And that happens, what, 10% of the time? So I don't know. There were a few comments that didn't render. There's some guy named Sullivan asked me how come I didn't have a Don bot? How come I didn't have a bot? And he just assumed, right? And there's a lot of information there. And I was like, call me and I'll tell you. So anyways, there's the looking through there and just seeing that, understanding why the Don bot was even a thing. Don Beyer here, the incumbent, we did that one ACCF candidate forum. I was lucky enough to get, I was supposed to get 2 minutes. They cut me off 30 seconds short. I'm guessing probably because that was a new thing that the people before me had 2 minutes to do certain things, and then so they just cut me off a little early. No big deal. But at least I was able to speak and be present and show you that I can show up. So it's really cool that they did that. And again, if a place like ACCF would at least give me 2 minutes, like why? And I wasn't on the ballot. Why wouldn't True Representation Movement, or why wouldn't the other independent candidates invite me? So you can say I invited myself or whatever. I'm going to be heard. So. Yeah. And quite frankly, my plan is clearly more dominant. It's more dominant. If you go to Dave Kennedy's website, there's a lot of platitudes in there, a lot of personality. There's no real concise explanation of how he's going to get anything done. Sure, he'll say that he's done a lot of footwork and have talked to so many tens of thousands of people or whatever it is. But again, if you're just running for the sake of being independent, I knew just as well as these guys. I contacted him and Bentley Hensel back in May. And I was like, look, we need to work together the best we can. We're not going to get a lot of media circulation. Hopefully we can. But people are just going to be accustomed to looking at that ballot and picking whatever name that's in the party that they're accustomed to choosing. Or they just don't vote at all. I don't know what the percentage of transplants that we have here. They come here for a couple of years and then they move away. And I mean, I could tell you like where. That's definitely around anywhere around the metro. They do that. Some may stay. COVID changed that. Maybe you kind of got comfortable, but again, you just pick that name on there. You don't do the research. So I have probably out of any other candidate, for sure, not even probably, for every other candidate, I've been the most objective to Don Beyer. I found all his dirt, found all the credibility that he doesn't have. If you've seen that, I could talk for hours. It's really, I could sum it up in 5 minutes of everything of why Don Beyer should be unseated AI and just his hypocritical ways. Gosh, it's just the pledges that he signed, he doesn't do it, and it's pretty gross. It really upsets me every time I see him going out there, and he's just, you can't advocate for ranked choice voting and then tell everybody to vote up and down the ballot when you've got a record like that. When you've doubled your net worth to 124 million, going back to school during one of the worst Congresses in U.S. history, or claiming that big money in politics makes a mockery of the democratic ideal, and then but always campaigning with it, and then and not even using a penny of your own money, and all the stock trades and just yada yada. It's like, wow, like why we and if you took the time to read some of the stuff that I'm posting on there on social media or even on my website and just took the time to read that, it would be shocking for you that here's a guy who's all about that, but then he's like really nice to your face. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like we have sports teams and things like that. We have I don't know. Let's say anybody has like personal drama. Let's say Tom Brady, you know what I mean? Wasn't a good husband, great football player. Well, he's a football player, you know what I mean? And we don't really care that much about what goes on in his personal life. Roethlisberger, he got into some trouble. Eli Manning, I'm a Giants fan, so he married his college sweetheart. But again, what are they doing on the field? What are they doing there? And you know, if the idea is just to appear nice and then not get anything done, what is it's like wow, it's like kind of it's I can't think of I can think of 1,000 different words to explain what that's like, you know, and just how they get these people on there, they put them on the ballot, they don't know any different, and it's just it's ridiculous. And I put out a invite to the independent candidates as well as Don Byron, Jerry Torres, the parties, the respective parties there. And Dave Kennedy says he can't make a Sunday. And you know, I didn't hear anything back from Don Byron or Jerry Torres. That leaves Bentley. So if Bentley wants to come on my show, we can talk about that. I've sent him a follow-up email. I don't know. We don't have to necessarily make about a debate. We can talk about the platforms and integration of the platforms. I put it out there already that I would hire both these guys. If you go through Bentley's website, you're seeing a lot of his skill sets. He's not mentioning how to resolve the priority matters. If it's climate change or women's rights, there's some things in there. When he talks about campaign finance reform, he's just talking about transparency and things like that. He will tout that he's the first candidate to instantly disclose every donation, and that's fine, that's great, but it doesn't mitigate the plutocracy. When we're talking about campaign finance and we're talking about how lobbyists are just writing policy, benefiting business more than the people's interests, that's not campaign finance reform per se. It's just so if you really look at this stuff objectively, that's what you know Bentley is about. But again, like I'm more about integrating those platforms. You know, I'm one guy, and there's a lot of things that we need to get done. You know, if I were to win, then of course I would have Dave Kennedy's financial experience, and then Bentley Hensel's technical skill set. So, and there's a lot of cool things that he could do with that, and then also give them equal media attention. You know what I mean? If they ask me what's this, if the media were to be like, what's going on with this? Because some of the stuff on my platform, if not everything, is pretty novel. It's very revolutionary. From the American Capitalism Protection Act, the Gross Domestic Product Protection Act, climate change, women's rights, all the stuff. I looked at all this very independently. My most important thing is climate change, but you know, I was able to just be constitutionally honest. You know, if I don't have an assault weapon or abortion in my home or whatever it is, that's in my home. You know what I mean? It's fine. You know, if you want to have that stuff in your home, that's what America is. It's how they just create these social engineering ideologues and how much money is fueled into it. And if you try to go against that, party or not, how some people just get inflamed by it. And that very well may not be the majority of people. E pluribus unum, one out of many, just because one person says it. And that can be, that's a very neat Latin thing where it's like, okay, well, with one out of many, that could be universal, right? And it also may not be, right? So, but I mean, that's usually in this country, either for the president, and you would think that a president would have the collective interests at play. So, yeah, a lot of this stuff is like a music genre. You know what I mean? If you look at just the way that, you know, if you're into music, and some people like to play music, other people's music or whatever, perform that, cover bands or any types of, not just pop music or whatever it is. But if you want to do something new and different, something new, you think of, you know, pop culture, and you just think of Nirvana, Van Halen, the Beatles. Geez, I can't think of. I'm gonna go ahead and put out Lana Del Rey out there. The way that she sings, Whitney Houston, great singer. We all love Whitney Houston, right? But and she belts out all the power that she had. But you don't hear Lana Del Rey say it. It's a way different, and that's definitely a wow. She's I don't know, goddess of the moonlight or something with it. She sings. It's pretty. Yeah, there's a couple songs that I really enjoy from that. So like doing something different, you know what I mean? That can also go with the team. Look at the way that geez, who had the most unique, at least in recent days, out of that whole class of quarterbacks the last 20 years? Geez, Peyton Manning, you know what I mean? No huddle offense, you know what I mean? And so yeah, you can go like if we're just saying just we're calling ourselves independent or whatever it is, and we're going to do something new and different, but you're not actually professing that. You're just saying we need to do something new and different. Vote for me. I'm an independent on the ballot. That's just not, what are you doing new and different? What is actually, you have to remember that people are going to look at your website and at least have a concise plan and all that. So yeah, that's pretty much, that all has everything I just said right there, has everything to do with that Donbot debate on how, and it glitched out. It also didn't sound like Don. I was hoping that maybe, I kind of imagined that it would, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, while I'm listening to this, I'm looking at the two other candidates there, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really that impressed. So go look at this Donbot debate and go look at the things that I said, and I said it very simply, very clear, or whatever it is, and that leads to my next topic, the big data tax. This is huge. A big data tax is estimated at being close to 1 trillion, about 1 trillion per year in tax revenue. That could actually lower taxes. Of course, we would be dependent on the electrons and data and all that. But I mean, we really look at this rationally and objective and think about it. I mean, there's you know how many satellites we have now out in low Earth orbit, all kinds. So we're dependent on them for these things. Like it's not going to go away. I mean, okay, sure. What if a freak scenario that I don't know. Okay, well, actually, think about it. If I was going to say aliens, but that's kind of cliche. But what if there's like a massive solar flare that takes all that stuff out? Okay, we'll still have some form of data. Maybe we can upgrade our technology to be more. Of course, that technology would cost more to be less vulnerable to solar flares and things like that. Beside the point, the big data tax is, if you're looking at Trump's tax plan, it's just going to make the rich richer, and it's going to at the expense of the environment, right? And if you look at Harris's plan, there's some necessary social programs in there, and it's just going to be minuscule patchworks, but both, and the environment's going to continue. Again, the things that we have done from the government side, even the investing in, is nothing. We're still the world's largest oil producer. We have to offset that green premium. We have to get this new technology through, or it's going to get pretty bad. Prices are going to go up. Agriculture is going to get all screwed up. It's pretty bad. But both of those tax plans are going to put us in debt. So if you had a big data tax to cover that, especially Harris and Walls, that's what I would do. They may not be perfect people. You know what I mean? They may not have the best personalities, or you may not like some of the things in their record, or what they've said here or what they've said there, because the way the things are set up with parties. I mean, what other choice do we have? Like that, there's a huge movement. After what's happened in these previous two administrations, we want ranked choice voting at the exec for the president. We totally do. You know what I mean? And again, it's like, just doesn't matter what party they are. Like, are you professing the constitutional collective interests? And maybe I'm speaking to the choir here, and the majority is fully aware of it. You don't hear them say anything when it comes to social media or whatever. I know I've talked to a lot of people about this. I got signatures, you know what I mean? And some people were, just, just go ahead and sign and get you on the ballot or whatever it is. But some people are very much, just narrow with a particular thing, or they may not have any recent up-to-date information, or they've got bad attitudes, or they don't. Yeah, I could go on and on with different types of voters that I've experienced. So yeah, we take a look at that big data tax and how that could change the world. Now the data is spread internationally, so you'd have the president would have to negotiate these treaties with these big corporations that are really So a tax revenue would have to work something out. This is a new thing. There's a book out there that I've been publishing on. I didn't write it on social media. Big Data Tax, and I wish I had that title in front of me. I do not. But that was just one publication. There's many different. The concept of Big Data Tax is not just owned by one publication. So do some research on that and think about that. Is crazy. Now, have you ever heard anybody? I know about this because the information's out there. But have you heard any other politician or candidate talk about something like that? Why not? Is it so new and different that you just can't grasp its novelty or you don't want it? Take a look at that, right? Matt Gaetz. I took it upon myself yesterday morning to challenge Matt Gaetz to a boxing match. And you may think that's a bit unusual, right? And I'll tell you why it's not unusual. Okay. One, the predecessor to the incumbent here, Jim Moran, was an amateur boxer, right? The military has boxing programs and things like that. It's sport. I'm not talking about 12 rounds, knock each other out, and to make this big publicity. I'm talking just kind of exhibition, 3 rounds, even if it's just shop talk. You know what I mean? And if that's too volatile, or Matt Gaetz doesn't want to show up to that, then there's other things we can do. We don't have to be friends, you know what I mean? But we can talk what it is, because if you really understand what's going on and you see how poorly this 118th Congress is, a lot of that has to do with the division in the Republican Party. But there's also a lot of things on the left. Did you go to Don Beyer, look at the 200 different pieces of legislation that he's introduced that's just sitting there, asking for a whole bunch of federal funds. Now, if we can afford that stuff, fine. Okay, maybe if we had big data tax, maybe if once we get that data back from asteroid 16 Psyche, and we discover, when you've got SpaceX and things, other companies out there getting ready to build space infrastructure out there, because asteroid 16 Psyche is an asteroid worth, was it 10,000 quintillions, 19 zeros? It's like $38 million for every person on the planet. We're not going to give everybody $38 million, and we're not going to legislate that either. You know what I mean? That's making me think of UBI. We don't want that either. But yeah, maybe we can afford some of that stuff, and that's there. But if you keep pushing that ideologue, even into progress trap, that more social programs, get the government to do it, then it's no surprise that if we can't afford it, there's another thing I've been putting out there. It's a federal balancing act I think it's by the people into it. You know what I mean? And there's just, you can see where we want to balance the budget, right? Again, this is something the president should be doing in their executive policy. So if we can, that's why a lot of that stuff is getting shut down. You know what I mean? It's one of the things I go after Don Beyer on, where he's talking about saving the whales, which is fine. You need whales and get that symbiosis and all that. But when you're not talking about protecting jobs, that meme is perfect. Save the whales, not jobs for me. And all of a sudden you would think that I'm somebody on the right, the far, whatever. But just no, it's like, well, sure. Why? Just he has no credibility. If he has put it on Washington Post Live, he has no position to protect jobs from AI, nor does he care. It's already starting in Chipotle in California, and something of a response to the higher $20 fast food minimum wage there. So yeah. So again, but when it comes to Matt Gaetz, when it comes to him, now he's just making things more complicated than they need to, and he will, say that he represents a district that has the most military retirees, or at least one of them, veterans here. Well, guess what? The Pentagon's here. Okay. So I will totally box Matt Gaetz. And also, so other people don't have, that's a peaceable thing. Boxing is peaceable. Okay. the I'm not a UFC guy, you know what I mean? Like that's not real mixed martial arts to me. Real mixed martial arts is deadly and there's eye gouging and all kinds of things like that. And it's I like boxing. I always have the sport, the boundaries. You wear gloves, the discipline, the training, the every fighter knows what I'm talking about. When you have you just go out there and the psychology of it, the where you're pretty much something of a loner. You don't like taking shit from anybody. It's a philosophy Kobe Bryant studied, and that doesn't have to be taken to like eye gouging and all this other stuff. But so that's the cool thing about boxing is that it's a sports. It's sports. Sports. If we're no matter how difficult that can be, and if we need to record that or whatever it is, but really get. And if he doesn't want to, if he doesn't, he was in that documentary, The Swamp, on HBO. So was Rokana. And they're sitting there, both freshmen representatives, and they're talking about campaign finance reform and getting. That's what the swamp is. The swamp is mitigating the plutocracy in our government, and plutocracy is controlled by the rich. And you can say oligarchy too, and that's a little bit trickier here in the U.S. with monopolies, but that does exist too. You heard Robert Wright use that word a lot. I kind of think it's more fair to say plutocracy. So, anyways, but I'm not taking away his speech. So, that's what that is about. And then you see Donald Trump came in, he promised to drain the swamp, he didn't, and then he's just blaming our federal institutions that are trying to hold us accountable, him specifically. And then you've got Vivek, his mama Swampy, you know what I mean, talking about how we need to downsize and do all this. So basically, you can just impose your own brand of plutocracy. If you know anything about Vivek, you see what he did with that medications and just how he manipulated the financial markets, all the patents that were involved. Those were bunk patents that weren't going anywhere. He just manipulated it. And his dad was in intellectual property too. So I'm sure he used a lot of that knowledge on how you can just be a bullshitter, you know what I mean, and get rich, just find that gray area and then go with it. That's basically what they're doing. So that would be cool to see. I saw the entire thing in the swamp, and I remember when it came. I believe it came when it came to the vouchers and how he said that he wouldn't think that his district would go for that because that would be a tax credit, or that would be something that we would have to pay for. So let's tweak it then. Why get rid of if it's the American Anti-Corruption Act? And I know that Represent Us follows Matt Gaetz. If there's something that we need to massage with it, there's another thing over here from the American Promise people where we can basically set reasonable limits to how much money can be raised, right? And I've sat in a lot of webinars, and some people think they're grifting. I remember I was thinking, like, you're a grifter. Like, if you take away all that money, how do you know about candidates? Do your homework, do your research. You know what I mean? Like, get in there. And something I deal with is like some of my comments are offensive. Well, it's a sport. How about you look at it like that? You know what I mean? If I drop an F-bomb or whatever it is, I'm getting your attention. I have to. You know what I mean? Completely self-funded. I only have a minute. So that's basically Matt Gaetz, get to do that. And hopefully that we could get in there and box it out so other people don't have to. So we don't have to have another January 6th. So we don't have to have this stuff. And just to be the face of that, then I'm totally willing to do that. And I will continue to challenge Matt Gaetz to a boxing match or whatever, just to get him to the table, to talk reasonably. And maybe he can do some things to change comes within. Maybe he can just take a good look at what he's doing to the country and the party. And how much